They believed they were attacking an unprotected cargo ship, but this time, they were dead wrong. What they had really targeted was a U.S. Navy destroyer, and the Houthis made a critical error. In early April 2025, after another wave of Houthi drone strikes in the Red Sea, the U.S. Navy decided it was done playing defense. That day, in the middle of the Red Sea, radar screens lit up with a swarm of incoming drones. It looked like a fireworks show on the 4th of July. The Houthis had launched yet another attack in a growing string of increasingly daring strikes. But this time, their target wasn't what they thought. Instead of a vulnerable merchant ship, they had locked onto a heavily armed U.S. warship, a vessel designed not only to protect, but to counterattack. Within moments, alarms echoed through the ship. Defense systems engaged instantly, and before the enemy drones could even get close, they were reduced to flaming wreckage. That quick, decisive response was only the start. What followed would send shockwaves across the entire region. So what happens when a rebel force mistakenly takes aim at a U.S. Navy destroyer? The Red Sea is no longer just a vital trade route. It's become an active conflict zone. Since late 2023, Houthi forces in Yemen have unleashed wave after wave of drones and missiles at ships crossing these waters. Though they claim to act in support of Palestine, their chosen targets have ranged from civilian cargo ships to American warships. In their eyes, anything tied to the West is fair game. But their approach is erratic, dangerous, and reckless. And the U.S. Navy has been in the thick of it. Let's look at the numbers. More than 40 confirmed attacks in just a few months. Dozens of one-way drones, cruise missiles, even ballistic missiles. Yes, actual ballistic missiles have been launched toward maritime targets. Many were shot down mid-flight. Others managed to hit civilian vessels. Some tankers had to be abandoned, rerouted, or written off entirely. Billions of dollars in cargo now take the long route around Africa, delaying global supply chains by weeks. But not every ship ran. Some stood their ground. Vessels like the USS Carney, USS Gravely, and USS Laboon were deployed to safeguard commercial routes under Operation Prosperity Guardian, and they've had their hands full. The Carney alone has intercepted over 40 drones and missiles during several engagements. These weren't warning shots. They were real combat operations, using advanced tech like the Aegis Combat System, standard missiles, SM-2 and SM-6, and the Phalanx CIWS, a rapid-fire Gatling gun that fires 4,500 rounds a minute to shred incoming threats. But one incident stood out. A swarm of Houthi drones launched from western Yemen buzzed over the sea, seemingly targeting another easy tanker. But the blip on their radar wasn't carrying oil. It was an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. In seconds, the ship's radar locked onto the incoming threats from miles away. Orders were shouted. Sailors took their positions, and one by one, the sky lit up with mid-air explosions as drones were neutralized. The Houthis had made a deadly mistake. These aren't ships you sneak up on. The Aegis system constantly scans above, below, and across the water. It doesn't sleep. The moment it identifies a hostile target, it calculates an intercept path in milliseconds. When combined with SM-6S, capable of destroying threats flying at over Mach 3.5, and the Phalanx CIWS that chews through anything that gets too close, the destroyer becomes a fortress on water. Whatever the Houthis hoped to achieve, the reality was simple. They turned a vital shipping corridor into an active war zone, and they picked the wrong fight. Everything happened in a flash. Far too fast for the Houthis to realize they'd stirred the hornet's nest. Tensions were already sky-high. U.S. destroyers were conducting non-stop intercept operations. Surveillance satellites had picked up signs of another launch site near Al-Hudaydah in western Yemen. A salvo of drones and at least one anti-ship missile was launched, likely aimed at a commercial ship flagged out of Europe. But due to poor intelligence, or sheer bad luck, the Houthis locked onto what turned out to be a fully armed American warship. And let's be clear, this wasn't some outdated vessel. It was an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, one of the deadliest ships in the U.S. Navy's arsenal. Sleek, silent, and devastating when provoked. At first, all seemed routine. The destroyer was on a standard escort mission. Nothing unusual. until the electronic warfare crew noticed odd radar returns. Moments later, the Aegis system flagged multiple inbound threats. The officer of the deck called out, "Vampires inbound, multiple, bearing 270. Vampires being Navy slang for incoming missiles. Alarm screamed. Sailors rushed to battle stations. And in an instant, the destroyer switched from routine operations to full combat readiness. But then, the electronic warfare team detected strange radar echoes. Moments later, the Aegis Combat System auto-tagged multiple inbound threats. The officer of the deck called it out. "Vampires inbound, multiple, bearing 270. Vampire being Navy slang for incoming missiles. Alarms blared. Sailors rushed to battle stations. In an instant, the destroyer flipped from routine operations to full combat mode. The Aegis system did exactly what it was designed to do: identify, track, and neutralize threats. Within seconds, it had calculated the incoming flight paths of both drones and missiles. Two missiles launched from the vertical launch system with a deafening roar. From the bridge, it looked like bolts of lightning firing into the sky. One drone exploded midair, its shattered pieces harmlessly raining into the sea. Then another, and another, but they just kept coming. That's when the CIWS, the close-in weapon system, spun into action. Mounted fore and aft, these automated Gatling guns rip at 4,500 rounds per minute. When they lock on, it sounds like a buzzsaw tearing through the air. A final drone tried a last-second dive. It didn't stand a chance, obliterated mid-plunge. In just 90 seconds, it was all over. 0 hits, 0 damage, total dominance. The Houthis had probably meant to send a message. Instead, they sent their drones into a digital wood chipper and unknowingly gave the U.S. Navy a green light for a response. Here's the thing. Attacks like this don't just test your defenses, they test your resolve. And this time, the answer came fast. Just hours later, pilots were suiting up. Flight decks were cleared. Retaliation wasn't coming. It was already airborne. But before we go there, imagine standing on that destroyer, watching the night sky explode just a few hundred feet overhead. If you were the one in command, how would you respond? Full retaliation or strategic restraint? Let us know in the comments. No wrong answers, just your take. Because in this game, every second counts, and the Houthis had just run out of time. The moment the last drone hit the sea, the decision had already been made. The Houthis had crossed the line again. But this time, they didn't just disrupt global shipping or endanger civilian crews. This time, they attacked a U.S. Navy warship and lost. And when you take a swing at the U.S. Navy and miss, you don't get a warning. You get warplanes. Back at CENTCOM, retaliation orders were already in motion. Target packages were finalized, coordinates locked, pilots briefed. Within hours, jets lifted off from a nearby carrier strike group stationed in the Arabian Sea. This wasn't a patrol, it was a precision strike. The operation targeted a Houthi-controlled launch site near Al-Hudaydah, a known staging ground for drone and missile attacks. Using a combined force of F/A 18 Super Hornets, EA 18G Growlers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones for ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, the U.S. executed a multi-phase strike designed to eliminate the Houthis' ability to launch again. Phase 1. Electronic warfare. Growlers moved in first, jamming enemy radar and communications. In warfare, silence is deadly when you depend on early warnings. Phase 2. Suppression of air defenses. Precision-guided munitions, likely AGM-88 HARM missiles, took out known radar sites and surface-to-air missile systems, clearing the skies for the main assault. Phase 3. The hammer drop. F divided by a -18S flew in low and fast, dropping a mix of GBU, 38 dams and laser-guided bombs on launch facilities, drone warehouses, and underground command bunkers. A secondary strike targeted a radar tower believed to coordinate Houthi missile operations along Yemen's western coast. The night sky over Yemen lit up, bright enough to be seen from fishing boats miles away. Meanwhile, Reaper drones captured everything live, streaming it straight to commanders on board ships and in regional command centers. The results? Multiple secondary explosions confirmed, a sure sign they hit ammunition stores. The Houthis had tried to hide their arsenal, but the intel was spot on. That site won't be launching anything again, at least not from those coordinates. And the most impressive part? Not a single U.S. aircraft was hit. The entire strike package was in and out before sunrise. Satellite images released 24 hours later showed the aftermath. Burned out structures, collapsed bunkers, and one clear message. You don't get a free shot at the U.S. Navy. This wasn't the first retaliatory strike in Yemen, and it won't be the last. But the timing, precision, and speed of this strike sent a message far beyond Yemen's borders. From Tehran to Moscow to Beijing, everyone took notes. And let's be real here. The U.S. Navy doesn't like playing defense forever. At some point, the strategy shifts from intercept to eliminate. The Houthis thought they were safe, tucked behind Yemen's coastlines. After that night, they're probably sleeping a little lighter. By sunrise, smoke still rose over Hodeidah. But for the Houthis, the real damage wasn't just physical. It was psychological. Their launch sites? Gone. Their radar? Blinded. Their message? Muted. What was meant to be a strike against Western influence turned into a brutal reminder. The U.S. Navy isn't just patrolling the Red Sea. It owns it. But here's the bigger question. Are these precise retaliations enough to stop future attacks? Or is something stronger needed? Let us know in the comments. Is the U.S. doing enough? Or is it time to go full offense? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The Red Sea is no longer just a shipping lane. It's a test bed for missiles, drones, and political will. And the Houthis aren't the only ones watching. China is watching. Iran is watching. Russia is watching. They're all studying what happens when someone pushes the line. How far can you go before America pushes back? Right now, the message is clear. If you target a U.S. warship, you'd better pray it misses. Because if it doesn't, what comes next isn't something you can shoot down. This was never just about a drone, or a missile, or even a single ship. This was about what happens when someone underestimates the U.S. Navy. The Houthis fired. They missed. And in return, they lost an entire chapter of their launch capability. That's not retaliation. That's a message carved in concrete. From the moment their system locked onto the wrong radar signature, the countdown to impact wasn't theirs. It was America's. In under 90 seconds, they saw how one destroyer can erase an entire attack from the sky. And in under 24 hours, they saw how precision air power can dismantle their war machine. Before breakfast. But this isn't over. It never really is. The Red Sea will stay volatile. The drones will come again. But now, the rules have changed. Every future launch now comes with a price tag. Every radar ping risks being tracked back to a bunker that no longer exists the next morning. And for the U.S. Navy, one thing is certain. Next time, they won't wait to be targeted. So what's the real takeaway? You can bluff. You can posture. But if you try to hit the wrong ship, a ship built for war, with eyes on every horizon, and weapons that don't miss, then you better be ready for what comes next. Because what comes next isn't a warning. It's fire. Now, here's our final question for you. If you were in command of that destroyer, would you have held back? Or hit harder? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one. And if you found this story intense, eye-opening, or just plain wild, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp. Stay safe. See you in the next one.